Yo, what's up? This video is sponsored by EA. I had a chance to check out Fuse early to get the deets on him, and I'm going to tell you everything I know about him right now. Ladies and gentlemen, Fuse is here, and so is Apex Legends Season 8. What's up, everybody? Gonna keep this brief and gonna have a good time here talking about Fuse's new abilities, breaking them all down for you. I'm a professional esports caster for Apex Legends, but I also obviously do YouTube and make content on it since day one of the game. So I'm gonna give you the information you need to get ready for Season 8. Plus, we're going to do a little something special at the end, which is some speed ranking of all the legends versus Fuse's kit. I've had time to play Fuse. I know a lot of you are excited to jump in. He's a super fun legend, and I cannot wait to explain the abilities and kind of break down how good they are and why I feel like he could be in the upper echelon of legends coming out. Let's talk about his passive first. It's Grenadier. What does this mean? In Apex Legends in the past, you were allowed to carry 2 grenades per essentially inventory slot, and now you can only carry 1. Fuse brings that passive back to life, and he's allowed to carry 2 grenades per slot, which means he can basically double the amount of grenades that everyone else can carry. Not only that, he fires them farther, faster, and more accurately. Let me say those 3 again: farther, faster, and more accurately. Essentially, your grenades are one of your biggest weapons as Fuse. So if you're like me, who always feels like you see a thermite and you try to grab it, then all those red boxes come up and you go, okay, wait, I don't have enough. What am I taking out? That is me. Fuse is a legend for me. For the greedy looters who just always want that last arc star, that last thermite, it's very valuable. Plus, in Season 8, there are these drop boxes, random storage units that you're going to find across Kings Canyon. And what's great about that is that Fuse, you have to use a grenade to open them. And so Fuse will naturally really suffer less from that because he already has a surplus of grenades. And that really, I think, helps you to understand exactly the value of what he's going to be bringing. I think this is one of the biggest passives. You can notice that not just firing faster, but he can bounce them. He can see the trajectory of that bounce. There's a lot of interesting trick shots that are going to happen here, and I'm looking at in-game circles. I'm looking at moments where, okay, you know that teammate's up and around the corner. You know someone's above you, but how can you get a grenade up there easily? Well, wall bounce it, trick shot it. There's going to be some great clips from Fuse players, and it might be you because you know this information. Going out there, trying some fun grenade bounces. Again, arc stars are still going to stick, thermite's still going to land, and create that little wall of fire, which we'll get into for his ultimate. But obviously, the grenades, the normal grenades, are the ones you're going to want to bounce. But really, the distance is what's immaculate about this. You are going to get into game with Fuse, and you're going to say, this is unreal. This is literally unbelievable how far he's shooting this. And to me, when I was playing Fuse and I was having fights and skirmishes with friends and content creators in these lobbies, I was looking at it and going, this could be broken. Like, not broken like it's over. It's like broken like, oh my god, this is so good. I don't know if people are really understanding the value of having a grenade that can reach halfway across the map. And anyways, even if it's not that efficient or maybe tactical, it's a heck of a lot of fun. And I think this is why Fuse brings just a great look to something very common in Apex Legends and spices it up. Now let's talk about the Knuckle Cluster, because this is his second ability. This is his Q as tactical, and this is what you're going to use for a lot of different things. One of the first elements of it is describing it. He shoots out a Knuckle Cluster, which basically creates a couple of explosions, volleys of explosions in an area. They don't do that much damage to really just dominate, but you can see 10, 10, 10, 5, 10, 10. You're going to take about 50 damage off of somebody if they just stand in there, which is a lot when you start looking at what he can bring to the table with grenades and obviously with his ultimate. But that's not really where this shines. This isn't where I go, this ability changes the game. When I go and look at this ability is the impact of how quickly and how fast he fires it, which again feels a lot like a grenade. The combo ability of just shooting that in the midst of doing anything, even though you will harm yourself if you're in it, and then firing on an opponent, it just adds that extra little bit of damage, that extra little bit of spice, so to speak, that I think really makes an offensive assault that much more effective, especially when you're trying to push a team. But it's in barriers and chokes and sieges that I think this is going to be successful. What do I mean by that? If you're a new player, if someone's holding a building and they're behind a door, you throw this Knuckle Cluster at it, it will destroy the door. If someone's hiding inside a door to the corner, you could throw that Knuckle Cluster in there, and it's essentially going to just be damage in an area that is going to absolutely displace them, or at least get you a lot of damage on your abilities. And of course, there's a cool new damage counter in Apex Legends. You're going to see your damage actively throughout Season 8, which is this little tidbit. I've got a lot more coming on the channel, so make sure to stay tuned for that. But it's just one of those abilities that I found when it closed, that when we found that it really destroyed doors, we found that it was great at holding down chokes, that it was great at making people kind of make that decision of like, oh, do I want to push through the Knuckle Cluster? I really started to see, you know, he's got a lot of utility. In Final Circles, it feels like he's just an offensive legend, but there's a lot more to Fuse than you might think. And I watch, you know, people kind of look at Horizon over the course of last season and kind of ignore her utility, her ability to get up in the air vertically better than almost any other legend, better than any legend in the meta right now. And considering Pathfinder's kind of taken a step down, the fact that Fuse is showing like these signs where I'm going, I could see how that'd be good in a Final Circle. I could see how that'd be great on rotations, and I could see how this could be dominant with the right push and the right meta of Mastiffs. Boy, oh boy, let's talk about the Motherlode. He takes this big weapon out. They call it Wally, I believe, and he shoots down a ring of fire. Now, this has a long range. I'm showing you on someone, though, because as you can notice, there's no damage inside. The damage is outside on the ring of fire, and it means that if you want to push through it, you are going to have to take not only initial burst of damage, but then thermite ticking damage afterwards. Now, this is one of the bigger changes that I noticed and I appreciated that the designers listened to around Fuse. We had a couple of early meetings, and one of the big things that I noticed was that I really didn't feel scared to jump out of Fuse's ring. Now I do. Now I feel like this ring, when it shows up, absolutely has an impact, and I think it's going to change the meta potentially. Imagine pushing someone with Mastiffs, imagine pushing into that, throwing grenades, throwing your Knuckle Cluster. They will have to take a huge penalty, and again, rotations are huge. All right, so I think Fuse is going to be great. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. We're moving on now to ranking Fuse against the other legends. I got about 30 seconds for each legend before this video ends, so I'm excited to kind of push through it, and I think this is going to be fun for you guys to watch. Let's start the first count. 30 seconds here. Octane. Where does Fuse sit with Octane? Well, in Season 8, because none of us have played it, and I have seen a couple of different changes, Octane to me is looking like one of the more fun top 5 legends that you're going to want to maybe invest in or check out in this new season with some new capabilities. The big change between Octane is his distance and his team distance that he can create with the jump pad. The jump pad has gotten a boost in terms of taking you much farther and much higher, and I think that team-wide utility is finally going to give Octane a place potentially in higher level metas. I still think Fuse brings more than him, which is why I'm going to rank Fuse a little higher than Octane, especially when it comes to being competitive at a high level, but I do think Octane is right below there, especially with the changes to his jump pad. I can't wait to show you guys that and try it out. Let's move into Wraith. Wraith is still creme de la creme, but I've heard some murmurs that Wraith is maybe not so viable anymore. We've seen some team compositions with Caustic, with Gibby, with Horizon peeking in more. Will people start to value verticality more? I think Fuse definitely doesn't play the same role as Wraith, and I think his utility is fantastic, but it's not quite as good as basically what Wraith does, which is an entry fragger with the ability to get out of dodge, basically make sure she doesn't take damage and rotate on a teammate. Fuse really suffers in rotational abilities for his teammates. He does nothing in terms of that, and so I have to say Wraith still ranks a little bit higher, but hey, she's one of the best legends, maybe the best legend in the entire game. Let's move to Pathfinder. Pathfinder and Fuse, again, represent opposite sides of the spectrum. Fuse is a run-and-gun character, and Pathfinder is a lot more of a run-and-gun style for an individual, but more team-wide utility when you're looking at his ability for the zipline to create moments for verticality for his teammates. I like Fuse here in this season, though, and I think he's going to catch some eyes. Rather than Pathfinder coming back in, I think we'll see more and more teams looking at Fuse to potentially fill a void that Pathfinder didn't leave, but I think exposed that other legends can also fill that role. And I'm excited to see. In my opinion, Fuse is a lot more of a hot topic, and I think has a lot more potential this season to shake the meta up than Pathfinder. So for me, Fuse ranking a little higher than Pathfinder. Sorry, Pathfinder mans, I know you're going to have something to say in the comments. Gibraltar, let's talk about Gibraltar. Big Gibby, I think, reigns supreme right now. And Fuse, despite having so much offensive power, defensively is where he lacks, and I think that's the point. I think a lot of players who want to play Fuse want to run and gun. They want to have an experience where they're doing more damage. They want to be able to say, hey, I'm taking control of the fight actively with pressure, and Gibraltar's just the best at basically defending that pressure. And in fact, one of the only legends that I think counters Fuse pretty well is Gibraltar, being able to kind of bubble inside that ring of fire and say, okay, you put the ring of fire, I'm just going to bubble and outlast this thing with my team inside. You want to push us? We're ready. We have Mastiffs too. I think that makes him a very strong counter, especially with the fact that you want to push somebody, but then he defensive bombardments in the ring of fire. Now you got to go into the bubble and fight him, and he's waiting. So I think Gibraltar's still a step ahead. He's been the best in the meta outside of Wraith and outside of Bloodhound, so I consider to keep him there as well. Crypto, I think Fuse right now, Crypto might have some Season 8 changes that make an impact, but I think Fuse, for me, takes the cake. I love what Fuse is bringing to this meta. I think Crypto has almost kind of been replaced in some ways with Bloodhound having the ability to be aggressive and also use the recon beacon to see where that second circle is, to know where the end game is. And I think Fuse, unfortunately, as you guys are seeing some new weapons, you're seeing some cool little things I'm sneaking in here, is just going to, I think it's more of an aggressive meta now, and I think people with Crypto are just a step behind. And so I think Fuse takes the cake. I would rank him higher than Crypto right now going into Season 8. Let me know what you guys think about that one. Okay, Loba. Ooh, I think Loba is in the same category I'd place Lifeline and Bangalore. So I'm going to kind of group 3 here in a little ways. Loba, I think, has a lot of utility and a potential, and I think at the end game, Loba in the black market has definitely been underutilized. When you talk about end game, you're talking about not just Avengers, but you're actually talking about resources, and a lot of teams run out of resources, and even a guy like Fuse is going to be able to benefit from somebody like Loba on the team, especially with the fact that he can take so many grenades, and just being able to pick that up from a black market anywhere around in a final circle without having to rotate or go to a box, having unlimited ammo as well. I think these are things that teams could really benefit from, because you really start to run out of it when you play those long ranked matches. Unfortunately, again, not enough team utility. I think actually Fuse beats her with offensive prowess. The mobility is where Loba shines. So if you still like that teleport, Loba might be for you, but I'm ranking Fuse a little higher myself. All right, I realize I got to speed this one up a little bit, but I do want to get through all these legends and compare them, and I also want to make sure you guys keep seeing Fuse's ability. So let's get back on track. Bangalore is who we left off at, and I think Bangalore, to me, represents the ultimate individual skill player. Bangalore in Season 1 and 2 was fantastic, has a lot of individual ability with her double time passive. The smokes are great, and again, the rolling barrage, the ability to kind of set up a distraction and say, you can't come this way, and if you do, you're going to pay a price. I think that's a really great skill of Bangalore, especially as a solo player, but I don't know if she scales as well as high level as Fuse, and the reason is big circles. It's that simple sometimes. When you have a big circle like a fire ring, it makes it a very easy target for your players to play off of. You know where people are, and Bangalore in many ways obscures the battlefield, and I think it's not easy to be consistent with her abilities and execute the same thing over and over again. You go into a game plan with an artillery barrage and you're rolling thunder. You don't really know what that is. You don't really know what you're going to do in a final circle with that. I think it just ultimately doesn't really fit for her at high level quite yet, although we've seen some great players like Shiv FPS say differently, so we'll have to wait and see. To me, I think Fuse is got a much better chance of being high level right now. All right, let's move into Lifeline. Lifeline is a great legend, a great 1v1 legend. Always, really, I think a great solo legend and a new player legend. So if you're just coming into Season 8, Lifeline is probably going to be better for you than Fuse, because she just brings a lot of utility as far as, her E, when you're able to use it and pick people up, have that shield while you're fighting around. I think there's almost nothing better. Just that extra little bit of help and pressure without you really having to do anything to press a button. Lifeline is always going to have a special place in my heart. She could play. She pretty much is the best, I think, version of a starting character, and I really do value what she brings to the table. I do think, though, in my eyes, right now, Fuse has stepped himself into an upper level of echelon, the way I'm seeing the abilities that he has and the way they can be played. So I think he ranks a little higher than Lifeline. Bloodhound. I think Bloodhound and Fuse go neck and neck here, but I'm going to give the edge to Bloodhound because Bloodhound has shown the ability to succeed at high level again and again and again, and is now one of the more popular legends at that competitive rank, and for good reason. Bloodhound scans, a lot of people call them wall hacks because essentially that is what they are. They're in the game wall hacks that allow you and your team to see where players are, and in final circle moments when you're trying to push a building, when you're looking for enemies who might be ratting, there's almost nothing more valuable. You add to the fact that Bloodhound is continually getting more speed in the ultimate and being able to push players almost as aggressively as a Bangalore in double time, maybe even more. I really love the way Bloodhound has come together and become a feature in high-level Apex, and I don't see Fuse uprooting that just quite. I do see maybe Fuse living into that. We'll see. But let's take a look at Horizon, who I think, and I call last tier list, and we've seen it this tournament, some amazing Horizon plays. I said Horizon was going to make it into the meta. I think this is the character everyone's sleeping on. I think Fuse is about to be the next Horizon. I think these legends are going to have a place in competitive. This is not the day of Revenants and Lobas, where we saw two legends come in that didn't quite change what the high-level pro scene did. I think Fuse and I think Horizon are absolutely at that level. And because Horizon has already proved it, and we saw such an incredible performance yesterday in the ALGS, I've got to give Horizon the edge here. I know a lot of Fuse mains, soon-to-be Fuse mains, might be upset with that, but Horizon's vertical mobility is untouchable. And in final circles, I'm looking at both of those Fuse and Horizon combos could be incredible. I'm really excited to see what you guys come up with, and I'm going to be looking at videos and things you guys send me as well with that combo. Caustic, I think, is a great legend, and, you know, I think fits right into the mix with Fuse. Maybe not better than Fuse, maybe not too much worse. I think this could be a nice pairing, because when you talk about the Ring of Fire, and you talk about Caustic, those two abilities is a big circle with an open area, and then his ability basically spreads out in a circle. So you throw Fuse's ultimate down, you throw Caustic's ult inside, and there's nowhere for anyone to run unless they are a Gibraltar. And that's why I still think Gibraltar is going to be great in this meta, but I also think that Caustic and Fuse have some incredible in-game circle potential. Stuff that can say, you can't really beat this. You will lose the game. And that's why I think Caustic's going to stay relevant in this meta. I also think it's a tough legend right now. A lot of people complain about Caustic, but I'm excited for Season 8 and what it might bring, especially with Fuse. Mirage, Fuse beats Mirage by a mile, only because Mirage is one of the best characters and designs I think we've seen in a video game, but unfortunately that design has not paid off in high level whatsoever, and I'm not sure it ever will. And I think that it's important to have legends that don't necessarily make it to high level, because then everyone's high level, and when everyone's high level, nobody's high level. You have to have these distinctions, and I think Mirage is going to bring a lot in Season 8. I have to play a lot more Mirage, because if you don't think Mirage is good, you are underrating him severely and the ability that he has to not only make plays, but to outwit opponents who are really, really good. I just think Fuse has a lot more easily predicted trajectory of how he's going to make an impact on the scene. Now let's talk about Revenant. Revenant is a legend that had his heyday. It wasn't right when he came in, but he definitely had his moment where people were running Revenant pushes. The things got changed for his ultimate quite a bit before that had to happen. A lot of glitch kind of into the walls, and you had a lot of moments where, well, Revenant and the push, it's a little too long, it's not long enough. I think Revenant has kind of gone out of the mind of a lot of players, and so I wouldn't consider him a top 5 legend right now compared to where Fuse, I think, could sit in that top 5 or right underneath at 6. But I do think that Revenant in Season 8 is a legend you need to pay attention to. It's a great legend for people who like to be a little sneakier, who like to have a little bit more physical mobility, especially because of the climb. The climb is an amazing feature and allows you to play higher buildings, and there are a lot of buildings in Kings Canyon, and Mayhem is going to create a lot of opportunities for Revenants to take advantage of that height, drop down after toteming, take their health, and get right back up to where they want, and no one else can chase them, and they've just made a great push. I like Revenant this season. I just think Fuse is actually better, so that's giving you a good sign for Fuse. And of course, let's finish it off with Watson. Watson is the legend that I think Fuse may actually not beat this season, and there's a few reasons. I think we've seen Watson dominate Apex Legends for a long time, but now we've seen Watson kind of make a small, dip into obscurity. I think that's starting to change. I was talking about it with my buddy Mark on set, one of my favorite friends to do broadcasts with, and such a great guy, but he has a mind for Apex, and he plays it a lot, and he's dead set on Watson coming back into the meta, and so I would listen to him. I would say there's something to it. Will it happen? We'll have to wait and see. That's probably up to you guys and what you see, but I think Season 8 could hold some untold treasures for Watson. The point of this and the end of the video is that Fuse is here, and he's here to stay. I think he's going to be one of the better legends in Season 8, but I need to know what you guys think in the comment section below. Again, this video is sponsored by EA and Apex Legends. Thanks so much for giving me an opportunity to check out Fuse early, and I hope you guys stay tuned to the channel for more stuff here on Season 8. As always, never give up, never stop gaming, and I'll see you all next time.